I don't have very much to say, except Orhan Pamuk.
أشهد أن لا إله إلا
writing like that. I am a sailor who knows where he's sailing, rather than there is some fog, but it's so much fun, and some authors also like that, but then they don't know what the book is about. That will happen, some details, some lines, some things. Take notes as the novel progresses about the future chapters, about what I will write. Yes, and of course, if there's some research to be made, I do that research. I'm a disciplined writer. I think novelists should be disciplined and self-imposed, working out. I work a lot.
Why do you write? Why do you write? This is the question I've been asked most often in my writing career.
And I like it. So, till the age of late 30s, when my daughter was...
Türkiye'deki yazarlık kariyer olarak hayatımdan son derece memnunum. Kimseden şikayetçi değilim. Ya istediğim kitapları istediğim gibi yazdım ve onlara istediğimden fazla hem Türkiye'de hem Türkiye dışında okur buldum. Her şey benim için aslında bir anlamda fıstık gibi oldu. Ruhumdaki kırılgan ya da beni suçlu hissettiren nokta içtenlik sorunu. Bazı insanlar çok kolay içten olabilirler. İçten insanlar oldukları için değil, içlerinde bir kişi olduğu için. Ben ise her zaman hissettim ki içimde birden fazla kişi, birden fazla ses, birden fazla ruh var. Ve birinin sesini kaptığımız temin dinlerken dışarıdan hafifçe yarı kafayı üşmüş bir görüşle kendi konuştuğumda konuşurum.
I have a strong opinion that I have innate talent for painting, while for writing I'm troubled that I use my...
Má větší cenu než všechna aktiva federální banky.
He's got higher value than all the actives of the Federal Reserve. He discovers new symbols of civilization's conflict. Nobel Prize laureate Orhan Pamuk.
Good night. Very pleased to be in Prague. İyi akşamlar. Türkçe konuşan arkadaşlarımız da, dinleyen arkadaşlarımız da var. Onlara da biraz sesleneceğiz bu akşam. I'm very pleased and flattered to be in Prague. This is surprisingly my first time in this beautiful town. I'm going to talk about two of my books. The previous subject was revolution. My subject is a bit more revolutionary. I choose it's love, or how love appears in my novels. I'm going to read from two of my books. One of them is an old book that I published 14 years ago. My Name is Red. Then I will read also from my last novel, Museum of Innocence. Now, My Name is Red is about late 16th century Ottoman painters. Between the ages of 7 and 22, I wanted to be a painter. Later, as I wrote in my autobiographical book, Istanbul, a screw was loose in my head, and I switched. I was raised to be a painter between the ages of 7 and 22, but a screw was loose in my head around the age of 22, 23. This I described in my book, Istanbul, a sort of an autobiography and an essay that explores the spirit of the town. Some 15, 20 years after I stopped painting and wrote novels, and perhaps established myself as an author, both Turkey and later internationally. One of the most frequent questions that I've been asked is, Mr. Pamuk, why did you quit painting? Because I was raised to be, by my family, to be a painter, and started painting. And my answer is, in fact, I don't know. But I said, I don't know so many times that I begin to think that maybe it will be nice if I write a novel about the joys that I have lost, the joys of painting. My Name is Red is a novel, a book about the joys of painting. Perhaps the motivation to write that novel was to capture how it feels when your hand is moving faster than your mind. That is, you're drawing something, you don't know what you're doing, but there is an intellectual intellect in your hand. This is how an artistic painter, I think, behaves, that it's not the intellect of the mind, but it's the intellect of the hand that I wanted to write about. This is how it feels when you paint. And I also thought that it's perhaps the sentiment is similar to writing. In fact, when I was writing My Name is Red, I thought I was both simultaneously talking about the joys of painting, which also includes joys of seeing, joys of noticing the colors, the differences in visual world. But I was also writing about, writing about literature, pinning down things with words, understanding the world through words. At the beginning, when I began writing My Name is Red, I thought I actually wanted to write a book about contemporary, meaning 20th century, a story of a 20th century Turkish painter. I began to write it, I began to thought about it, I began to explore it, after which, after some time, I decided I don't want to write a contemporary book about Turkish painters, because I thought they are, this is in between us, too much influenced by European painters, and I don't want to venture into and explore the problematical and damning subject of influence by European culture. I didn't want that. I wrote about these subjects in my other books. I want to go deeply, thoroughly into purest sides and purest joys of painting. Then I thought that perhaps painting is also, yes, there is influence, there is modal, there is cultural influence, there is a reaction to cultural influence. So I decided to carry my deep subject to a historical novel, the novel that I was writing about modern 20th century Turkish painter who was perhaps like me. I projected my story back into past, and I decided to set my story about not one painter, but a group of painters in 16th century, around 1590s, where there was a strong movement, relatively strong movement of painting, illustrative painting inside the book, inside the manuscripts. As we all know, Islamic culture is problematical when it's confronted with the idea of image, especially human face and human figure, because it's forbidden in Islam. While on the other hand, especially in Persian and sometimes in Arabic and Turkish culture, there is a slight culture of painting. It was achieved. Islamic painting, if we call it painting, those painters never called themselves painters. They would more often call themselves nakkash, more ornamental, rather than musawwir, more painter. But there was a legitimate Islamic painting, although it was forbidden by religion, inside the books that the sultans kept in their treasuries. A regular medieval and Islamic book would, that is illustrated, that a manuscript which has paintings or paintings inside is a very precious thing, and the Ottoman sultans, like Persian princes and rulers, would keep these books not inside their libraries, but inside their treasuries, because those paintings were very precious. So with the idea of, initial idea and motivation of writing about painters, then writing about how painting suggests and forms the way we see the world, I begin to research for my book. My Name is Red is set in 6 days, I think, in 1591 in Istanbul, my town, the town that I was born into and spent all my life. And it's a historical novel, but not in the sense that we see Napoleon or the Ottoman sultans and important figures, but the focal point of the whole story is the workshops, ateliers of Ottoman painters or illustrators, and the kitchen of upper middle class, relatively speaking, Ottoman bureaucrat. It is about many, many things, but essentially, since all Islamic, Ottoman, or even generally speaking, pre-modern painting is illustrative, it is also about a huge Middle Eastern Islamic culture. That is, that all the great texts of Islamic culture are illustrated. That, in fact, there are some 15, 20 books that a regular educated bureaucrat just would know by heart if he is going to be an intellectual bureaucrat, ruling person, a government person in the Ottoman Empire, in the Persian provinces, in what we today call Mughal Empire. From India, from Mughal Empire to Ottoman Empire, which at the middle of, say, 16th century includes from Calcutta to even the gates of Vienna, it was a whole, from my understanding, a one big culture where the palaces, the painting, and the literature were heavily influenced by each other. They were just talking about European Union. That was a sort of European Union. Of course, they would wage wars with each other, but the culture was very much similar. At the center was the great Persian culture. It was a political model and literary and artistic model for both Ottoman and Mughal cultures. In a very ambitious way, between 1995 and 1999, I researched for, heavily worked for My Name is Red. The ambition was to represent in a modern way what the peoples of and cultures of these people meant to us. It's because of the Turkish westernization, Ottoman culture was heavily in my generation was almost forgotten. I remember a joke that a Dutch journalist made to me once, saying that, "Oh, Mr. Pamuk, we enjoy your My Name is Red so much, but actually we miss so much because there are so many Persian, Ottoman, Turkish, Islamic stories we don't know, and we miss some of your jokes." And I said, "Oh, don't worry, my Turkish readers also don't know these stories because westernization made them forget these stories." Sometimes I say to myself, Sigmund Freud, once said that what is repressed comes back, but comes back in disguise, in wearing another clothes in another shape. In fact, My Name is Red is coming back of the Ottoman culture in postmodern disguise. My ambition and my project was to reteach, let them remember all the stories that rulers and educated elite of the Ottoman Empire knew, and write these stories in such a convincing and readable way that the new generation would remember, and do this in a very secular, very modern, very, I would say, in fact, postmodern way, so that the language would be accessible both to Turkish and modern readership. In order to do that, I had also the heavy job of you have to teach the reader something about how they behaved, how they read, how they understood each other, and also, as you do it, you have to also unfold your story. Many, many things, heavy burden for a novelist, and in order to achieve that, I inserted mini one-page stories inside the story. These stories that are told by the characters in the story help the reader realize, visualize the culture of the period. What is the culture that I'm referring to? The culture of bookmaking, the culture of illustrating books, the culture of the meaning of a book. We have now, with the age of paperbacks, cheap books, we have a culture of books, but the culture of books in, say, 16th century Ottoman Empire, or say 14th century pre-modern Italy or pre-modern Europe, was very radically different before the invention of or popularization of printing. And in order to achieve that, in My Name is Red, I wrote mini stories. Now I'm going to read one of them, surprisingly, because this will be, I'm going to read one of them in Turkish, but now you have to put your, because it will be translated to you in various languages. Here is a mini story that I'm going to read now from My Name is Red in Turkish. So so maybe I'll drink a glass of water. This story is told in Istanbul in 1591 by someone who has some encyclopedic and also heartfelt information about the legends of Persian painters around the same period, or 100 and 200 years earlier. These stories are told in the manner of, say, Greek myths. Both are important as story-wise, but also instructions about how to behave in life and in art. Here is my one-page story. Her şeyin her şeyi tekrar ettiği ve bu yüzden yaşlanıp ölmek olmasa
Once upon a time, not so very long ago, yet not so recently, everything imitated everything else, and thus, if not for aging and death, man would never been the wiser about the passage of time. Yet, when the worldly realm was repeatedly presented through the same stories and pictures, as if time did not flow, Fahir Shah's small army routed Sabbatian Khan's soldiers, as Salim of Samarkand's concise history attests. After the victorious Fahir Shah captured Sabbatian Khan and tortured him to death, his first task in asserting his sovereignty, according to the custom, was to visit the library and the harem of the vanquished Khan. In the library, the late Sebastian Khan's experienced binder pulled apart the dead Shah's books, rearranging the pages, began to assemble new volumes. His calligraphers replaced the epithet always victorious Satin Khan with that of victorious Fire Shah, and his miniaturists set about replacing the late Sebastian Khan, masterfully portrayed on the most beautiful of manuscript pages, who was, as of that moment, starting to fade from people's memories, with the portrait of the younger Fire Shah. Upon entering the harem, Fire Shah had no difficulty in locating the most beautiful woman there, yet instead of forcing himself upon her, because he was a refined man versed in bookstone artistry and resolving to win her heart, he engaged her in conversation. Consequently, Neriman Sultan, the late Sebastian Khan's belle of beauties, his starry-eyed wife, made but one request of Fire Shah, that the illustration of her husband in a version of the romance Layla and Menjun, wherein Layla was depicted as Neriman Sultan and Menjun as Selahattin Khan, not be altered. In at least this one page, she maintained the immortality that her husband had tried to attain over the years through books should not be denied. The victorious Fire Shah bravely granted this simple request, and his masters of the book left that one picture alone. Thereby, Neriman and Fire immediately made love, and within a short period, forgetting the horrors of the past, came to truly love each other. Still, Fire Shah could not forget that picture in Layla and Mejnun. Nay, it wasn't jealousy that made him uneasy, or that his wife was portrayed with her old husband. What gnawed him was this: since he wasn't painted in the old legend in that splendid book, he wouldn't be able to join the ranks of the immortals with his wife. This worm of doubt ate at Fire Shah for 5 years, and at the end of a blissful night of copious lovemaking with merrymen, candlestick in hand, he entered the library like a common thief, opened the volume of Layla and Mejnun, and in place of the face of Neriman's late husband, drew his own. Like many Khans who had a love for illustrating and painting, however, he was an amateur artist and couldn't portray himself very well. In the morning, when his librarian opened the book on a suspicion of tampering and beheld another figure in place of the late Selahattin Khan, next to Neriman-faced Layla, rather than identifying it as Fire Shah, he announced that it was Fire Shah's archenemy, the young and handsome Abdullah Shah. The gossip provoked Fire Shah's soldiers and emboldened Abdullah Shah, the young aggressive new ruler of the neighboring country, who was defeated, captured and killed. Fire Shah established his own sovereignty over his enemy's library and harem and became the new husband of the eternally beautiful Neriman Sultan.
My challenge when I was writing these one-page stories was to keep the regulation of a self-imposed regulation, right? Tell a story in one page. This story also served as a sort of a jumping point into the ocean of immense Ottoman, Persian, Mughal culture and its beauties. Now I move to a novel that I published 4 years ago, again in Turkey, Museum of Innocence. It's a story. It is essentially a story about love. The story is the story of a upper middle class, secular, westernized Istanbul rich boys love affair, infatuation with a twice removed cousin from the poor side of the family. It's a love story, but my novel, Museum of Innocence, do not put love on a pedestal to say, oh, how sweet it is. My book doesn't say this. How lovely it is, or my book is not like a pop song. It is a serious book that explores what happens to us when we fall in love? And my attitude is to say that it happens to all of us, or at least to most of us, and it's like a traffic accident. We are not happy with it all the time. And our reactions to love is most of the time is very similar. We get angry, we begin to negotiate with the beloved, we are jealous, communication is very important, we are impatient, we are constantly waiting, love pain is like this, so forth and so on. 600 pages of serious exploration of what happens to us when we fall in love, seen through the point of view of an upper middle class Istanbul man set in between 1974 and till the end of 20th century. Here, my protagonist, my narrator, is talking about how it feels when he feels that when he is exposed to the torturing pains of love. Now, I'm going to read again one page from the book. This is not a story, but this is a sort of a Montaigne-like exploration of self-conscious exploration of a person's desire to describe to the reader how it feels, how love pain feels. This is from 26th chapter of my novel, Museum of Innocence, first person singular. We are in 1975. A upper-class rich man is talking about his love. His beloved is not around. He is heavily in love, and it's more about pain rather than joy. The title of the chapter, chapter 26, Aşk acısının anatomik yerleşimi. I'm again going to read in Turkish, but you may put your and listen in translation. O günlerde, okay, now Museum of Innocence is also a museum that I did in Istanbul. And the narrative voice in this novel, purports, also behaves like someone who is showing you around in a museum, oh, here's this object, or saying, oh, here's this bottle, my beloved drank from this bottle, and I'm exhibiting it. The novel is also aspires to be a museum catalog, where the annotations are so long and manipulated in such a way that it just reads like a normal novel. So when the narrative voice is telling you, here I exhibit this, here I show you that, it is referring to a museum, which I actually, me, Orhan, did in Istanbul. It's open. There is also a ticket inside the book. You can come and visit us. Aşk acısının anatomik yerleşimi.
The Museum of Innocence, an anatomical chart of how pains.
O günlerde
The depiction of the internal organs of the human body is taken from an advertisement for POZITIV.CZ, a painkiller on display in the window of every pharmacy in Istanbul at the time, and I use it there to illustrate to the museum visitor where the agony of love first appeared, where it became most pronounced, and how far it spread. Let me explain to readers without access to our museum that the deepest pain was initially felt in the upper left-hand quadrant of my stomach. As the pain increased, it would, as the overlay indicates, radiate to the cavity between my lungs and stomach. At that point, its abdominal presence would no longer be confined to the left side, having spread to the right, feeling rather as if a hot poker or a screwdriver were twisting into me. It was at first as if my stomach and then my entire abdomen were filling up with acid, as if sticky, red-hot starfish were attacking themselves to my organs. As the pain grew more pervasive and intense, I would feel it climb into my forehead, over the back of my neck, my shoulders, my entire body, even invading my dreams to take a smothering hold of me. Sometimes, as diagrammed, a star of pain would form centered on my navel, shooting shafts of acid to my throat and my mouth, and I feared it would throttle me. If I hit the wall with my hand, or did a few calisthenics, or otherwise pushed myself as an athlete does, I could briefly block the pain, but as it's most muted, I could still feel it, like an intravenous drip entering my bloodstream, and it was always there in my stomach. That was its epicenter. Despite all its tangible manifestations, I knew that the pain emanated from my mind, from my soul, but even so, I could not bring myself to cleanse my mind and deliver myself from it. In experiencing such feeling, I was like a proud young officer ambushed in his first command, forced into a mental rout. And it only made matters worse that I had hope. With every new day, new dreams, new reasons that Füsun might appear at the Merhamet apartments, which, by making the agony bearable, prolonged it.
İlk defa baskına uğrayan mağrur bir komutan gibi tam bir akıl karışıklığına sürüklenmiştim. Üstelik içimdeki acıyı dayanılır kılan ve bu yüzden de uzatan bir umudun ve Füsun'un her yeni gün merhamet apartmanına gelebileceğine ilişkin pek çok neden ve hayal vardı kafamda. This time I hear that the translators were faster than me. I am very grateful to them. Perhaps they have felt the energy to go to join the party and eat food. That's why I think this is enough for tonight. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I don't know if he's right, but there's a party awaiting you. A few notes. We have downstairs the books of all the authors in English, Orhan's books in Czech, Thomas Selachik's books in Czech and English. You'll see. They will come down, they will sign some of the books. If you like them, please purchase the books, ask them to sign. That's the first note. The second note is, in essence, tomorrow at the Senate. And we're very excited to be at the Senate. It's going to be fabulous. We have a wonderful reading of Miguel Sosa Tavares at 2:30 in the Senate. He will read in Portuguese. There'll be a conversation with Lida Vaisova. It's translated into English and to Czech, no problems. Then we'll take it from there. So we'll see you tomorrow. And after that, I think it's sold out at the mayor's residence on Friday. Orhan Pamuk will be in conversation with Peter Kuchar at 6 o'clock. But before that, at 4, you can go to Luxor Bookshop, and there's a very, very great signing ceremony with Orhan Pamuk and all of his books in Czech. Okay, so we'll see you tomorrow. Good night.